Okay, let's unpack this deep dive on a really critical, sometimes uncomfortable topic for businesses and organizations.
Yeah.
Layoffs. We've taken a look at some compelling material that challenges the traditional view of workforce reductions as just a quick fix.
Right. What's fascinating here is how these sources argue that what often seems like a decisive financial move can actually inflict deep, long-lasting damage. And not just to the bottom line, but, to the very fabric of a company's culture and its future potential.
Yeah.
Our mission here really is to extract the core insights on why layoffs are often, well, a misstep, and what the powerful alternatives actually are.
The immediate, almost knee-jerk reaction to economic pressure or even just a desire for short-term gains
Yeah.
is often to cut headcount. Companies frequently frame it as streamlining or right-sizing.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where it truly gets interesting.
Yeah.
This material labels that a dangerous myth. It argues the true cost is far higher, and it lingers for years, maybe even decades.
Yeah, and when employees walk out, what genuinely vanishes isn't just a line item on a payroll report. It's the company's innovation engine.
Right.
It's skilled people, sure, but also diverse perspectives, unique experiences, the creative sparks that propel a business forward.
Absolutely.
Think about it. Years, sometimes decades, of accumulated institutional knowledge, those nuanced customer relationships, operational understanding, poof, gone.
Evaporates.
Exactly. The sources paint a stark picture. Rebuilding that critical knowledge base is described as painfully slow, incredibly expensive, and frankly, often incomplete. And what's more, the research indicates that for every, say, 10% of staff laid off, cross-departmental collaboration, a key driver of new ideas, can drop by as much as 15% among those who remain.
Wow, 15%.
Yeah, those critical informal networks, that sort of invisible glue holding things together and fostering innovation, that's precisely what gets severed.
So what does this actually mean for a company's competitive standing then? This deep dive suggests that a company's competitive edge doesn't just dull. It can be permanently blunted.
That seems right. While you're busy patching holes, dealing with plummeting morale, trying to force teams to do more with less,
Right.
your more agile competitors, especially the ones who didn't decimate their workforce, they're not just racing ahead. They're actively capturing market share you might never get back.
So you're actually losing ground.
Actively losing ground, yeah. The material presents compelling evidence. One study indicated companies undergoing significant layoffs saw, on average, a 7% decline in market share over the next 2 years compared to peers who avoided cuts.
7%. That's significant.
It is, and it's primarily due to internal paralysis, a focus on damage control rather than pushing forward with innovation.
This brings up a really important consideration then. Do the supposed short-term savings from layoffs ever actually outweigh these profound long-term operational headaches and strategic setbacks?
Well, the sources strongly indicate no. They suggest downsizing consistently weakens employee emotional stability, job satisfaction, and overall workplace effectiveness.
It sounds like a vicious downward spiral.
It's portrayed exactly like that, a spiral that directly undermines the very cost-cutting and efficiency goals they were trying to achieve in the first place.
Do we have examples?
Yeah, consider Wayfair. Their stock initially jumped, I think, about 10% after announcing layoffs.
Okay, short-term gain.
Right. But within months, it had fallen again because the underlying business challenges, now exacerbated by the loss of talent and internal disruption, just persisted. Or look at Spotify. Their big layoffs were meant to streamline things. Instead, widespread disruption, prolonged project delays, and a much bigger hit to morale than anticipated. It actually hindered their product development cycle for months.
So the ripple effects are huge.
Huge. The true cost goes way beyond severance. It includes recruitment costs for eventual replacements, extensive retraining time, lost revenue from stalled projects, delayed market responses. It adds up fast.
And beyond the immediate financial and operational hit, this material delves into something, well, even more profound, maybe more insidious.
Yeah.
The deep psychological and cultural damage.
Yeah.
Layoffs, it says, don't just affect those who lose their jobs. They poison the air for everyone who remains, often with much longer-lasting consequences.
Absolutely. And perhaps one of the most striking outcomes the sources highlight is what happens to those left behind. This phenomenon often termed survivor syndrome.
Survivor syndrome.
Right. Employees who survive the cuts. They're frequently left feeling stressed, anxious, overwhelmingly burdened with heavier workloads, and just grappling with this crushing uncertainty about future cuts.
That sounds exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's not just about feeling a bit down. It leads to a real plummet in motivation, a dramatic drying up of risk-taking. Innovation just gets stifled. The fundamental relationship employee-employer, it shifts from mutual respect and commitment to a purely transactional, do the bare minimum kind of exchange.
Oh.
And the research goes deeper. It reveals survivors often experience symptoms akin to post-traumatic stress, guilt, anger, depression, a pervasive sense of betrayal.
That's intense.
It manifests tangibly, too, in something called presenteeism. People are physically there, but psychologically checked out, disengaged.
So they're just going through the motions.
Pretty much. Leading to a significant drop in discretionary effort, creative problem solving, all the things you actually need.
And this erosion of trust.
Yeah.
The sources say it's not just a minor issue. It's like a corrosive acid eating away at the organization.
That's a good way to put it. It has far-reaching consequences. Think about it. Skepticism becomes the default.
Right.
Employees get wary, cynical even, about management communication. That great idea someone has, it stays unspoken. Why?
Because they don't trust the company, don't feel valued.
Exactly. Or secure enough to stick their neck out. And collaboration, that essential ingredient for solving complex problems, crumbles under pressure. Fear breeds self-preservation. People retreat into their silos. This cynicism can become embedded in the culture, making future attempts at transparency incredibly difficult.
So it makes future positive changes harder, too.
Definitely. And stepping back, considering the broader implications, this kind of environment almost guarantees that you're best and brightest.
Okay.
They jump ship. First opportunity they get.
Those with options leave.
Precisely. High-performing employees, they see the writing on the wall. They leave for environments where they feel valued, where their future feels more stable.
Leaving the company weaker.
Leaving an organization with a less engaged, less capable, and often deeply demoralized workforce. And the sources emphasize these aren't temporary blips.
These are scars.
Cultural scars, pervasive fear, crippling uncertainty, a loss of collective identity. They can persist for years. It makes a company afraid to create, hesitant to dare, fundamentally less competitive.
It's not just losing talent, then. It's losing ambition, ingenuity.
The collective ambition and ingenuity that drive growth.
Yeah. Okay, so if layoffs are such a treacherous minefield, leading to all this profound and lasting damage, what's the alternative? What's the stronger, more sustainable path?
Well, the good news is our sources don't just point out the problems. They present a powerful, actionable alternative, embracing collaborative problem solving.
Collaborative problem solving.
Okay, but this requires a fundamental shift in mindset. Viewing employees not as numbers on a spreadsheet, not as potential cost centers.
As assets.
As your single greatest, most valuable asset.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
What truly stands out here is the idea that by genuinely bringing your team from the front lines right up to middle management into the conversation about business challenges, you unlock this vast reservoir of practical knowledge, frontline experience, creative thinking that leadership sitting in their executive suites might just never see otherwise. Which raises the crucial question, why does this approach work so incredibly well?
Okay, let's break that down. The sources suggest, first, solutions come straight from the source, right?
Exactly. Employees doing the day-to-day tasks, they intimately understand where the real inefficiencies lie, where bottlenecks frustrate customers, where the improvement opportunities actually are.
They're on the ground.
They are the eyes and ears. Often with innovative solutions they've already thought about. Their ideas tend to be far more practical, more sustainable, precisely because they come from the reality of daily operations.
Makes sense. What's second?
Secondly, it's about development through doing. Growth through contribution. Inviting employees into strategic thinking isn't just about getting ideas.
It's a development tool.
A powerful hands-on tool for professional development. When you entrust individuals with solving complex business problems, they hone critical thinking, project management, collaboration skills. It significantly enhances their value to the organization, and it prepares them for future leadership roles. It's an investment that creates a deeply engaged, high-potential workforce.
Okay. And thirdly, there's an ownership aspect.
Critically, yes. The ownership mentality takes root. When people feel genuinely trusted, respected, empowered, when they're truly part of the solution, not just receiving decisions from on high.
They act differently.
They start acting like owners. They take personal responsibility for outcomes, proactively identify problems, champion solutions. They transform from being perceived as cost centers into vital value creators.
Because they feel a personal stake.
A personal stake in the company's success. They're actively looking for ways to improve the bottom line, delight customers.
The ripple effect sounds profound.
It is. This proactive, inclusive approach, it doesn't just solve immediate operational challenges. It builds a far more resilient, adaptable, inherently innovative organization. One that's significantly better equipped to navigate future uncertainty, even thrive amidst disruption. It fosters a culture of continuous improvement.
Where challenges become opportunities.
Exactly. Opportunities for collective growth, not reasons for fear.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly compelling in theory.
Yeah.
But, how do you actually do it? How do you translate this into action?
Right, the practical steps. Our sources provide actionable ways to start fostering this culture of transparency and collaboration, moving from theory to tangible results.
Let's hear them. What are the actions?
Okay, first. Hold regular, radically honest State of the Nation meetings.
Radically honest.
Radically honest. Share wins, yes. But equally important, acknowledge challenges, be candid about financial realities. Crucially, explain the why behind decisions, not just the what. And it's not a lecture. It has to be an open dialogue. Invite questions, feedback.
Okay, what's next?
Second, create focused problem-solving huddles. When a significant challenge arises, a dip in customer sat, an operational bottleneck, whatever, pull together a diverse, cross-functional team, people closest to the issue.
Empower them.
Truly empower them to brainstorm solutions and give them the autonomy to test and implement their ideas. And the sources stress psychological safety here.
Meaning?
Creating an environment where even uncomfortable truths or seemingly crazy ideas can be shared without fear of reprisal. That's where real breakthroughs often emerge.
Makes sense. What else?
It continues with genuine leadership. Implement and embody a true open-door policy. Actively encourage questions, concerns, feedback at all levels.
I'll just say it. Do it.
Exactly. Demonstrate your listening. Acknowledge input. Act on constructive feedback. And if suggestions can't be implemented, transparently explain why. That builds credibility.
Right. Credibility is key.
Absolutely. Fourth, always share the why behind key decisions. Don't just announce changes. Explain the rationale, the data considered, alternatives explored, expected outcomes. Help teams connect their individual work to the bigger strategic picture. It fosters purpose, alignment, something top-down directives rarely achieve.
And finally,
champion and celebrate transparency. Publicly acknowledge and reward managers, individuals who consistently foster open communication, build collaborative environment.
make it a core value.
Make it clear this isn't just a nice to have. It's a core value, integral to success.
These actions, they directly build on that profound idea running through the sources. Employees truly engage when leadership gets real with them. Remember that research highlighted? It vividly shows employees feel most invested, most connected when senior management communicates openly, treats them like valued stakeholders, not just cogs.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
And this leads to clarity, fueling confidence, inclusion breeding value, and, well, job satisfaction and loyalty skyrocketing. That Paychex survey, for instance. Over 83% job happiness with transparency versus just 57% without. That's huge.
Huge difference.
And 3/4 of employees at transparent companies intending to stay long-term versus only 45% at less open ones. These aren't minor shifts.
No, they represent fundamental differences in workforce stability and engagement. And it's fascinating how this commitment to transparency then builds that unwavering trust.
The super glue.
Exactly. The superglue binding employee engagement to operational efficiency. When you entrust your team with unfiltered information, give them agency to solve problems. The traditional, often adversarial relationship transforms.
Induce a powerhouse.
A collaborative powerhouse. And this translates into tangible results. Motivation goes into overdrive because people feel respected. Innovation flows from the inside out. Engaged employees are always looking for better ways.
Operations get smoother.
Smoother sailing, less friction, fewer hidden issues. And you see genuine growth both for individuals developing skills and for the company overall.
Any examples of this in action?
Yeah, think about Starbucks during the early phases of COVID. Their transparent communication fostered this strong sense of community, shared purpose. That led to innovative solutions like optimizing mobile ordering. It helped them pivot, even increase sales despite huge challenges.
Wow.
Or Patagonia, their radical transparency on their supply chain, environmental impact. It's built this deep, almost cult-like loyalty among employees and customers,
So they're more resilient.
much more resilient, enabling them to navigate economic challenges with a far more engaged workforce.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive seemed to suggest that in today's business landscape, the choice is becoming, well, pretty stark.
It really is. Build sustainable long-term success through unwavering trust and deep collaboration,
Hmm?
or risk getting caught in that reactive cycle of short-term fixes and progressive long-term decline. The evidence consistently shows companies that genuinely invest in their people, empower them with information and agency, communicate with radical
They
openness.
do better financially?
They consistently achieve superior financial results, and they build stronger, more resilient, more innovative organizations.
Which brings us to the final question for listeners, for leaders everywhere.
Right. What kind of company are you committed to building? One that tries to cut its way to a diminished future, or one that collaborates its way to a stronger, brighter, and more prosperous one?